और अब मेरे पास कोई नाम नहीं आना चाहिए. Remaining students will remain. Yes, Khushi. Who is first in the list?
Shivansh.
Yes, Shivansh. Come on.
गुड आफ्टरनून सर.
Good afternoon. Sai Ram, start.
सर मैंने आपको व्हाट्सएप पे एक प्रेजेंटेशन भेजा है सर.
अच्छा, फिर
सर आप उससे प्रेजेंट कर दीजिए सर. सर अभी मेरा थोड़ा लैपटॉप में कुछ प्रॉब्लम चल रही तो मैं प्रेजेंट नहीं कर पाऊंगा सर इसके लिए.
Leave it. Whose name is next in the list, Khushi?
Anuj.
Sairam sir,
Yes, Anuj.
sir present करो.
Yes.
Sir, is it visible?
Yes, yes.
Sir, so I am presenting the second chapter of Supplementary Reader, The Address by Marga Minko.
Okay.
The narrator is Marga Minko, daughter of Sarah Minko, born 31st March 1920, in a Dutch journalist and writer. In 1957, Minko published her first book, Het Beter Kruid, in which a nameless character goes through war experiences. There are 4 characters in the story: Miss S, Miss S' daughter, Miss Darling, and Miss Darling's daughter. The story starts from here. Before war in Miss S' house, a lady named Miss Darling comes to Miss S' house to give pre-war information to Miss S. Miss Darling takes the ornament, precious items, goods, etc. of Miss S, promising her to return them back after the war. Then after the war, when Miss S died, it took a long time for the narrator to visit that address, as she was afraid of being confronted to things which would evoke memories of her past. After the first visit, the narrator returned back to the address, lucky to find only Miss Darling's daughter, who invited her in. Along the passage, the narrator noticed their Hanukkah candle holder. When she entered the living room, she found her mother's belongings arranged in a tasteless manner, surrounded by ugly furniture and muggy smell. The girl offered the narrator some tea and they started talking. The narrator looked at the antiques that belonged to her mother and realized that those things had lost their essence because of the way they were kept there, and also because now she lived in a small rented room. She had no space for these items. She resolved to forget that address and moved on. Thank you, sir.
Is that all?
Yes, sir.
I asked you to keep it short, but not that short. Okay, I'll ask you some questions later on about this lesson only. Anuj.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Khushi, who is next?
Daksh.
It seems he is also not there. Yes, he is not there. Now next.
Harshit.
Come on, Harshit. Harshit is also not there. Kanishka has also left.
Sir, I'm there.
No, you are not responding, beta. I am constantly asking.
Sir, actually, your The voice is not coming to me. Sorry, sir.
My voice is not coming. Okay. Shivam,
Yes, sir.
am I audible?
Yes, sir.
When I was calling Harshit's name, was I not audible, beta?
No, sir, you was audible.
I was audible. But Daksh is saying, this Harshit is saying that my voice was not coming. It was there when I was calling Harshit. Purvi?
Yes, sir.
So I was not audible only to Harshit. Rest everybody I was audible. Okay, Harshit. Come on.
Sir, can I present my screen?
Hmm.
Thank you, sir. Om Shri Sairam, I Arshit Jain, studying in class 11th A, going to present a chapter which name is The Address. The author of this chapter is Marka Minko. The characters are the narrator, Marka Mingo, Mr. S, Mrs. S, mother of the narrator, Mrs. Darling, an acquaintance of the narrator's mother, a girl of 15 years old, daughter of Mrs. Darling. Introduction. This short story is a poignant account of a daughter who goes in search of her mother's belongings after the World War in Holland. When she finds them, the object evokes memories of her old life. However, she decides to leave them all behind the resolves to move. The chapters start from here. The war was over and everyone except the narrator in the narrator's family was either deported or killed. When war was over, Marga returned to her house, which was no more, and lived in a small hut. One day, Marga thought of the woman, Mrs. Darling, who had taken all of her possession. She remembered her address, 46 Marconi Street. Marga went to Marconi Street by train. The first visit. The narrator traces Mr. Darling's number 46 address to claim her family property, but Mrs. Darling refuses to give away. Mrs. Darling says she doesn't recognize the narrator, but the narrator recognizes her. It was now evident that Mrs. Darling had betrayed the narrator's mother. She was turning away to go when someone appeared at the window. Probably it was Mrs. Darling's daughter. She was asking, "Moms, who is there?" The second visit. When Marga returned to the station, then she decided again to visit Mrs. Darling's house. When she rang the bell, Mrs. Darling was away. Mrs. Darling's daughter, who was about 15 years, welcomed to the narrator. When narrator see the living room, she was horrified because all the things which were kept there was all of her mother. The daughter had no idea about the daughter had no idea how her mother had looted the utensils and furnitures from the narrator's house. All that she knew was that her mother had bought these precious antiques on an auction. The narrator decided not to wait for Mrs. Darling. She uh, she leaves the house and forgot the address. Thank you and Sairam.
Khushi,
Yes, sir.
next.
Mohit.
Sam, sir.
Saira Mohit.
Is the screen visible?
Yes.
Om Shri Sairam. I am going to explain the chapter number 3, that is Ranga's marriage. Let's first get the introduction of the chapter. This story is about a boy named Ranga who has been to the big for his education and returned to his village after some time. The boy is the son of the accountant of the village. They live in the village named Husali in Mysore. The boy, when returns, the whole village flirts over him to see if there is any change in his personality. However, to their dismay, he still has the same eyes and mouth and everything else. He did the traditional namaskar and all dispersed. Summary of the chapter. In the first part of the story, the author praises his village, or the author praises his village. He asks the reader if she or he has ever heard of the village. He replies to the question himself, for the village was not located in any of the maps for the English Babus, and the ones in our country forgot to put it there. Then he introduces Ranga, the main character, in a time 10 years ago. Ranga had gone to Bangalore for studies and returned some after 6 months. It was a time when English was a language not popular and few people used it. All used to converse in Kannada. All the villagers arrived at Ranga's place and began scrutinizing him. To their dismay, he was still the same old Ranga and they left disappointed. However, the narrator stayed back and shared a few jokes with the boy and then left. Later in the afternoon, Ranga arrived at the narrator's home with a few oranges. The narrator judged the boy and felt it appropriate to marry such a well-educated and humble boy. However, Ranga had no plans to settle as a married man. He put his views on marriage in front of the narrator, that he wanted to get married to a girl who is mature and someone Rangappa could admire. Ranga left after the discussion and the narrator decided that he would get the boy married. Determined, he began consulting Rama Rao's niece Ratna as a suitable bride for Ranga. She was from a big town and knew how to play veena and harmonium. He came up with a plan. He asked Rama Rao's wife to send Ratna to his place to fetch some buttermilk. So she came on Friday wearing a grand sari. He requested Ratna to sing and send for Ranga. Ranga reached the narrator's place and stopped outside the room as he did not want to disrupt the singing but was curious to see her face, so peeped in. Ratna noticed the stranger and stopped abruptly. Ranga came in and the girl left. He told Ranga that the girl was married off a year ago and noticed the disappointment wearing Ranga's face. The next day, the narrator took Ranga to an astrologer who had already tutored what to say. It was the meeting with the astrologer when the narrator's name is disclosed. Shama he was. Astrologer pretended to read the natal chart of Rangappa and declared that the boy was in love with a girl who had a name of something found in the ocean. The narrator took the boy to Ramarao's home and asked him to wait outside. He confirmed that the girl was not married, that there had been some confusion after confusion. After the narrator had to come up with something. The story moves forward 10 years, or to say, returns to the present. Rangappa came one day to the narrator, inviting him at his son Shyama's birthday and Shyama's third birthday. Obviously, Ratna and Ranga had been married, and now they have 3 years old son, whom Ranga named after the narrator. Thank you.
Who is after Mohit?
Monit.
Sir. Saram sir, I am presenting the chapter Mother's Day. It's a play in which a lady named Mrs. Pearson, who is very fond of her family and works day and night to support her family members in the best possible manner. However, she is upset at the way she is being treated. Nobody cares for her or asks about her. All day long, she stays at home doing all the work. One day, she went to her neighbor, Mrs. Fitzgerald, a fortune teller and a magician. Mrs. Pearson tells about the treatment get from her family. Then Mrs. Fitzgerald proposed her a plan that they could exchange bodies, and then with Pearson's body, she would teach a lesson to Pearson's family. Mrs. Pearson agreed to the idea, and they two exchanged their bodies. Then Mrs. Fitzgerald left for Mrs. Pearson's home with Mrs. Pearson's body. She entered the home, smoked a cigarette, and was confident than ever. Then Doris Pearson, who is Mrs. Pearson's daughter, comes home and started demanding for tea and her dress. She told her mother that she was to go out with her beau Charles Spencer, on which the mother remarked if she could not find someone better. This broke Doris and she left weeping. Then comes the son, Cyril Pearson, who is assumed at his mother's strange behavior. They get into an argument. The child could not baffle the situation and leave. The children started discussing about their mother's behavior. Doris felt that it might have been that mother caught her at it. The mother enters with a bottle of stout and a glass half filled with it. The children begin laugh, so mother scolded them and asked to behave like grown-ups. Then Doris asked mother about her strange behavior or if they had done something wrong. Then Mrs. Pearson tells that it is actually the children and her husband behavior that has disturbed her. They always demand duties from her and she does her best to keep everyone happy and still no one is bothered about her. While the mother scolding Doris and Cyril enters George Pearson, who is Mrs. Pearson's husband, and is annoyed at her by sipping stout. Then he said that he do not want tea as he was going to club. Then mother says there is no tea. Hearing this, he got annoyed at her again. Mother thought that if he did not want tea, then why he is fighting for it. When this all happening, then Mrs. Fitzgerald, who is actually Mrs. Pearson, enters the house and asks to put everything on place and requested to have her body back. But Mrs. Pearson, who is actually Mrs. Fitzgerald, said she will, but on one condition, that Mrs. Pearson would not go soft on her family again. Then they get into original bodies and Mrs. Pearson left. Then the mother and children and husband smiled at each other and decided that they will not repeat that, decided to have dinner together and play a game of rummy. Thank you, sir.
Okay, madam. Have you presented your screen on mobile phone, beta?
Yes, sir.
And perhaps Mohit also presented on mobile phone.
Yes, sir.
So was it not inconvenient for you to present on screen? It would have been little inconvenient, it seems. And these PowerPoint presentations were made on computer, or you made these presentations on mobile phone only?
Mobile phone only, sir.
You created on phone only.
Yes, sir.
But better doing all this on small screen is little difficult, it seems. Okay, you have done it. Fine. I'm happy that at least you have done. But whenever you prepare this kind of things, try to do it on a bigger screen. Not for presentation. Presentation part was okay. It was all clearly visible. But when you were preparing these presentations on the screen, at least at that time you should have done it on the bigger screen, and then you can copy it on mobile phone if you want to, because it takes a lot of strain, isn't it? Chalo, Khushi, who is next?
Okay, sir.
सर कल जितनों के भी नाम लिखे थे हो गया पूरा.
Acha, now today's names are given names today also.
Yes sir.
So start calling them. Start calling them. If they
Kanishka.
are prepared, they will present.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
सर मेरा नाम कनक के बाद लिखा था ना.
सर वो कल के प्रेजेंटेशंस थे जो नहीं हुए थे पूरे. आपने नाम बताए थे कल के लिए, मतलब जो कल होते थे.
So now you have started calling the names of those students who have given today.
Kanishka.
Is Kanishka prepared, or somebody else wants to make presentation? Why is Vedanshi's mic unmute?
सर क्योंकि मैंने पहले दे चुका था और मेरा
Okay. Okay. You want to present? Carry on. Let Vedanshi present and then call Kanishka, because Kanishka has not yet responded also. Vedanshi, start.
Yes, sir.
And be quick. Perhaps this girl also has done on mobile phone. Beta, if you are having problem in presenting it, you can directly speak.
Okay.
Because I can see you are making lots of efforts in preparing all these slides on cell phone, which is for me little difficult.
Yes, sir. Sir, can I start?
Yes, yes.
Om Shri Sairam. Today I, Vedanshi Sharma, are going to explain the chapter, "The Portrait of a Lady," written by the writer Khushwant Singh. Today I will explain the chapter in the 4 parts. The first one is the theme of the story, second characters of the story, third one the chapter, and fourth one the highlights of the chapter. Let's move towards the theme of the story. The theme goes like this. The Portrait of a Lady is a part of an autobiography by Khushwant Singh. In this story, the author draws a pen portrait of his grandmother. He beautifully unfolds their relationship and how it undergoes several changes. In other words, the story is a loving tribute from a grandson to his grandmother. The story gives a picture of a human relationship. It is a realistic account of how the grandparents give all their time. attention, and love to their children. Now, moving towards the character of the story, there are two characters in the story. First one, the writer, he recounts his childhood days and his relationship with his grandmother. And the grandmother of the writer, that is Kushwant Singh's grandmother, is described as extremely religious person. She was a very kind lady. She was short, fat, and slightly bent. Her face was wrinkled, and she was always dressed in spotless white clothes. In the village, she took care of all the needs of the author when she was a child. Now, moving towards the summary of the chapter, let's Her face was a crisscross of wrinkles. Her silvery white hair was scattered over her wrinkled face. The author remembered her hobbling around the house in spotless white clothes, with one hand resting on her waist to balance her stool and the other hand busy counting the beads of her rosary. Her lips constantly moved in inaudible prayer to the author. She she could never have been pretty, but she reflected a divine beauty. She was like the winter landscape in the mountains. Childhood with his grandmother. The author in his grandmother were The author and his grandmother were good friends. His parents left him to stay with her when they shifted to the city. In the village, his grandmother took care of all the needs. She was quite active and agile. She used to wake him up in the morning and get him ready for school. She said her morning prayers in a sing-song manner while she bathed and dressed him in the hope that her grandson would learn them by heart. The author the author listened to the prayer because he loved her voice, but never bothered to learn them. Then she would fetch his wooden slate with. She had already washed and plastered it with yellow chalk. She would take an earthen ink pot and a reed pan and tie them in a knot and hand into author. After having a thick stale chapati with a little butter and sugar spread on it for breakfast, they used to leave for school. The author the author's grandmother always accompanied him to the school as it was attached to the temple. Turning point in the relationship of grandmother and author. The turning point came in their relationship when they moved to the city to stay with Kushwant Singh's parents. In the city, the author went to an English school in a motor bus. The grandmother could not accompany him to the school. As there were no dogs in the street, the grandmother took the feeding to the sparrows. As the years rolled by, they saw less of each other, in spite of her immense interest in his studies. She could not help him his lessons as he was learning English, the law of gravity, Archimedes' principle, and many more such things which she could not understand, and this made her unhappy. Sometimes she would ask him what the teacher had taught him. Grandmother distressed and disturbed. Grandmother didn't believe in the things taught at the school, taught at the English school, and was distressed to learn that there was no teaching about God and the scriptures in the school. Moreover, she was very disturbed at the idea of music lessons being given at the English school to her. Music had lewd associations, and she considered music to be unsuitable for gentle folk. Common link of friendship gets snapped. The common link of friendship between the author and grandmother was broken when the author went to the university and was given a room of his own. The grandmother accepted her loneliness and rarely spoke to anyone. All the day All the day long she sat spinning the wheel and reciting her prayers. Only in the afternoon she relaxed for a while to feed the sparrows. They perched on her shoulders and some even on her head, but she never shooed them away. She used to be the happiest half hour of the day for her. Author leaves for higher studies. The author decided to go abroad for higher studies for 5 years. He was sure that his grandmother would be upset at him at his departure. But she was not even sentimental. She came to the railway station to see him off. She showed no emotion.
Beta, you can close it here now.
Okay, sir.
Conclude it. Conclude it. If you have any last concluding statement.
My opinion to the story is I like the role of Khushwant Singh's grandmother because it reminds me of my grandmother too, and she was very caring and took the care of all the needs of her grandsons and grandsisters also. The best movement of the story is when the author came back to his grandmother, and they both means the grandmother became so happy. Thank you, sir.
Okay, beta. Fine, good. It's already 3:40. If we can call one more student, Khushi.
सर कनक का था वेदांशी के बाद.
ठीक है.
Sairam sir.
Yes.
Sairam, the topic which I took for today's presentation is the Summer of the Beautiful White Horse, which is written by William.
Okay, beta. Can you finish it in 3-4 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Which is written by William Saroyan. It is about two Armenian boys, Murad and Aram, which belongs to Garugulian family. They are very famous for their honesty. They are very poor and can hardly earn money for food. Here goes the summary of story. One early morning, Murad came to Aram's room window and asked him to come along with him for a ride. Aram asked Murad from where he got the horse because they were very poor. They can hardly earn money for a food. So how he can manage to buy a horse? But he can't resist, and they took ride for a quite long time. When Aram got to know that Murad stole the horse, he got shocked, but he kept it secret. One day, a horse owner, John Barrow, came to Aram's house where Uncle Khusro was sitting. He told about his missing horse, and Uncle Khusro lightly said, pay no attention to it." One day, on the way back to hide the horse to the hidden spot, they met John Barrow, who is going back to the town. They talked, and after some time, John Barrow noticed that the horse is similar to the one he has, and the teeth is also look like the one his horse have. But as he know his family, which is well known for their honesty, he did not believe that that the horse is his. So he just said that it looks similar to mine. Another day, Aram and Murad thought of thought of going to John Byro vineyard uh, and take the horse to his yard and keep it there only. When John Byro came to know that his horse came back to home, he got very happy and went to Uncle Khushru and said that his horse got his horse he got his horse back. And Uncle Khushru fraud again, quiet man quiet, pay no attention to it. And the best part about story which I like the most is the young boy Aram explains the underlying philosophy of his entire family, which is poor, but though they were well known for their honesty. Thank you.
Okay, beta. Well, that's it. It's 3:43. First, I'm stopping to record it. Attendance I have already taken.